In this episode, I'm speaking with Joseph Burroughs. Joe is the Associate Director at Clive Henry Group. And I've known Joe for quite a long time, and I've been chasing him to come onto the podcast because I wanted him to share more about his story, his journey, but more importantly, how important it is to Joe to be a role model, to hold that ladder out, and how he's navigated his career when he has been the only one, what he thinks we should be focusing on more, and just how he really is giving back as he is progressing as a young man on his leadership journey. I hope you'll enjoy it. Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Not too bad, man. How are you?
I'm really good. You know what? I'm so pleased that you said yes to join me today. So welcome to Bravery in the Boardroom.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it'd be really good for you to kick us off. I know a lot about you, but it'd be great for our audience to hear a little bit about you and your current role.
Yeah, so it's been too long, but yeah, so to those out there, my name's Joe. I'm the Associate Director at Clive Henry Group, as you know, predominantly sitting across Woodrow Mercer Healthcare, which is recruitment, and then Improve, which is more of a consultancy model to help on like outcome-based delivery. And then within Woodrow, my baby's continuing healthcare, so I look after the whole P&L within that space.
Okay, we'll talk more about that, right, for our conversation. So question I always ask our guests is, how would you describe your leadership style in 3 words?
Oof, 3 words. Transformative, integrity, and strategic.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 words to go from, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to see if we unpack that more as we're speaking.
Sure.
But I'd love to understand a bit more about your career journey. So how did you get to the role that you just explained you're holding now?
Yeah, so I think you can strip it back. So obviously anyone can go on LinkedIn, have a look. So first I went to university in Liverpool, which will probably link into further conversations because at my core I've always felt like I want to help people. So I went there initially to be a teacher. So sports science route, as you do, realised like 2 years in, wasn't quite for me, but wanted to see it through. So finished that, ended up going to Empower on a graduate scheme. That was wicked, but it was pre-COVID. Some of our viewers will know what it's like, some not. But I was doing 5 days to Solihull. Originally, I'm from like Langley Green. More people know it as Smethwick. So it was like hour and a half round trip, 5 days a week. So then a good friend of mine, Corey, was in recruitment. He referred me in Birmingham City Centre. I thought, yeah, have a bit of that 20 minutes in. So then I ended up in recruitment as we usually fall into it. Done about 2 years at S3. Pandemic struck. Probably got dig deeper into that later on. Then left there, went to Michael Page, was pretty happy there, pretty content, good people. And then got a knock on the door again from Corey and my current director, Liam, to go over to Woodrow. And at that time, my granddad had just passed and he'd gone through the CHC pathway. So it felt like everything was kind of aligning. And I thought, I was humming and ahhing. Again, I'm pretty strategic, thinking the ifs and buts, but then I just went for it. And then I've been here for about 4.5 years ever since. So good.
We were saying just before we pressed record that I met you, I think, not long after you just started at Woodrow. And I can remember it was almost building that continuing care kind of portfolio up. So it's amazing to hear how much it's grown and kind of you moving into that leadership role now to front that. But what helped you to get there? So that pathway that you just spoke to us about, apart from Corey giving a knock on the door, what else helped you to get to here?
It's a question I dig deep on sometimes as well. And you know me, I'm not going to say I don't take pride in my own achievements, but I'm certainly not someone who is I, sell. So it's definitely been a byproduct of me, my family being given the opportunity. But when I look back at it and I think what makes me me or what's kind of just clicked at the right time at Woodrow, I think it's authenticity. So for me, my one superpower, if I was to give myself one, is probably to be able to go into a room and read it quite well, read people. And I don't mean that I'm fake, because I think people buy into me because however I get my dialogue across, whether that's me and you sitting down, you're very similar in it yourself, like you've been at board positions in NHS, but then I could go speak to my mate who I grew up with, and we
Mhm.
could talk in a totally different dialogue, but that
Mm.
frequency of truth never really changes.
Mm.
So I think when I speak to people, they know that I'm genuine,
Yeah.
and whether that's from a social side or from a business perspective,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's pretty powerful. And I
Mhm.
think that's just what's clicked for the past 4.5 years. I've been in a space where people have given me a platform to
Yeah.
try to give me the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the NHS is very different to the corporate world,
Yes.
where I have met a lot more like-minded people, a lot more
Mhm.
people who are maybe from the background that I am, socioeconomic and obviously culturally,
Yeah.
but also even if they're not, people who are open
Mhm.
to listening and giving people who are different a chance
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think my ability to speak to people, them know it's real, authentic,
Mm.
and then obviously being able to speak to them in a way that drops their guard, makes them feel very much at ease to try and put something together,
Mhm.
is what's led me to be where
Mm.
I am today.
And you know what, you say that, you even say that humbly, right? Because and I say it because when I said I met you early on your journey with Woodrow, and as I said, I don't know if people know when you are trying to build a new, part to the portfolio, a new department, literally building that from the ground up,
Mm,
taking relationships from level one,
mm,
to right up to we're now your preferred recruitment partner.
yeah.
It's no mean feat. It's no mean feat what you've done there. And I know from what you said it, but I know how great you are at building relationships. You really are. So, but it's so important for our listeners, particularly our younger listeners,
Mm,
to hear that about actually being authentic
mm.
has been a key kind of enabler for you. But if I flip that, what about challenges? So, what challenges have you faced along the way, if any?
No, thank you. And there's always been challenges, and I
Mm.
think we could split it. So again, for the listeners, we could split
Yeah.
it commercially and then
Mhm.
personally. So
Yes.
get commercially out of the way first. Like you said, we're an SME, so we're against some big players. I need to name names,
Mm.
but we're against some
Mhm.
big people. Like
Mhm.
4.5 years ago, I couldn't even tell you what CHC was.
Yeah.
Going up against people who live, breathe NHS, expert clinicians,
Mm.
that's a challenge in itself. And
Mhm.
then you have to use your skill set, your USPs to
Mm.
try and get the people that you want to speak to
Yes.
brought in. And that was a real learning curve from recruitment to consultancy. So it was really strange that when I had my recruitment hat on, the people who I was trying to to knock on the door for
Yeah.
were like dodging me because oh yeah, recruitment consultant.
Yeah.
And then I'll come in as a strategic consultant. And
Yes.
then last week I was sitting around a table with a CFO, CEO, and chief nurse of a huge ICB,
Mhm.
talking about how do we identify and then resolve clinical issues, how
Mhm.
do we help budget responsibility, what's going to be
Mm.
the fallout of the consultancies that we're currently going through.
Yes.
So that was a challenge in terms of having to step up, and I just tried to outwork people. I've got
Mm.
quite it's funny when we watch something, my partner will say when there's always someone a bit let's say, because I am on the spectrum,
Mm.
she'll say that's me because I dive into everything. So as soon
Mm.
as something ignites a bit of an interest,
Mhm.
I'm fully in. Like it
Yeah.
can be 2 a.m. and I'm reading up on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's what people say. I have took care
Mm.
in what I try and deliver on, which is CHC.
Mhm.
And then personally, I think it links into what this whole theme of conversation's about. I
Yeah.
think microaggressions constantly. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is sometimes it's through lack of education because people grow up in different spaces. Sometimes it's people know they're doing it. So for example, my old corporate companies, I could have never thought the people I work with
Mhm.
directly or them as an organization, because again, it might be an unconscious thing that's just happened over decades. But
Mm.
when I looked up, there was no one like me in the positions that I aspired to be.
Yes.
Bar S3, Marcus Francis, who was a
Yes.
previous guest, but when
Yeah.
I looked at his journey, he looked at it, he started on the founding journey.
Yes.
So he opened up their Birmingham office.
Yes.
But after that, 25, 30 years, I didn't see anyone join the company
Mm.
who then looked like me or him, who
Mhm.
ended up in those
Mm.
positions.
Mhm.
Same at Michael Page. Again, the people who hired me, saw my face, knew who I was, put the ultimate faith in me. But then I was looking around and it was very tough to bridge that gap.
Yes.
And then microaggressions, you probably get them
Mm.
daily. And I'm mixed race, so sometimes it's even that's a bit nuanced because sometimes you're not black enough for a certain camp, but you're
Mm.
too black
Yeah.
for a white camp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll get, oh, you're not black. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So you don't get what they've got, or
Yes.
oh no, you know what I mean? You're not one of them, and I'll have to put my foot down to whoever makes them types of comments to me.
Mm.
Or I've walked into an office pre-COVID and someone's only ever heard me over the phone, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to look like that. You didn't sound like that on the phone." I said, "Oh, what do you mean? What? Because I've
Mm.
not got an accent? Because I'm not talking in certain expressions or using terms that
Mm.
you associate with someone of my
Mm.
image?"
Mhm.
And at times, like they're the microaggressions. That one was a little bit more overt, but
Mm.
there's the little covert ones that you have to build up a shield for. And
Mhm.
like I said, sometimes it's not always with malice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just due people walking different walks of life. But
Mhm.
yeah, you will get it over and covert microaggressions, I'll call them. Of
Yes.
course, I've had
Yes.
big overt ones,
Yes.
but in the commercial space, they're a bit more nuanced, and you have to navigate them very well if you want to continue on that corporate structure. I'm not saying don't call it out. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
call it out. You have to address the situation, but you have to certainly know you're working on a different chessboard than the one you grew up with. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you can't
Yes.
just boot off, kick off. You can't try and grab someone up against the wall. So I'm never
Mm.
like that, but certain
Mm.
people are. I know that's the
Mm.
first reaction, but you're on a different chessboard, so that is a challenge in itself.
And thank you for expressing that so clearly, because actually, what you were sharing there, Joe, about overt, covert, right? What you were sharing there about you've accepted, I've had to navigate this. That message there isn't saying everyone has to accept it, but that's how it's been for you. But
Hmm.
I think also speaking very candidly about being mixed race and some of those additional challenges that you face from your community as well,
Yeah.
right? Both sides, both factions
Mm.
of community. In what you were explaining there, though, what's helped you to be brave enough? So I know you use your platform and voice in
Mm.
many different ways. And you know, I admire your bravery. I've spoken to you about it a lot. And I really welcome it because I think we don't have enough young Black and mixed race male role models who are showing our young men, you know, who and how they can be and what you mentioned whilst being authentic,
Yeah.
right? Um, but where's that bravery come from?
I think if I dig deep, I'm grateful for the way that you word it. I'm probably my toughest critic, and I think I
Mm,
probably don't do enough. I probably think that I should have started earlier. And I look
mm.
back at, let's use LinkedIn as a platform. If I go
Yeah.
back to my platform in 2020, 2019, what was I speaking out about? Like it was a different world, but then I could use an excuse of, oh, was I in the right environment? Did I feel
Mm,
supported? But at the same time, if you're passionate about something, you seek change. Sometimes you got to do that on your own. So I am grateful for the word that you put to me, brave. But I think it comes from my parents, really.
mhm.
I think it was funny, like my partner, I was about to say my missus, but
You can say your
my
missus.
partner, Ellie, again,
Yeah,
backbone to everything that I've done.
yeah.
She's watching Downton at the minute.
Mhm.
So the reason why I reference that is because when we're watching it, when you watch it, you almost feel like you're in an escapism pod and it feels ages away.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's pre-World War II,
Mhm,
which you're
mhm,
talking 1930s,
mm,
1940s, and like the way of life's very different in
mhm,
there. Reason why I reference that is in that one of the heiresses falls in love with a black jazz band player,
mhm, mhm,
and they're just having none of it. Absolutely none of it.
mm,
Let's call that 1930,
mm,
1940. Fast forward to 1963.
mm.
My dad's born, first black male born from my family in this country. And my mom chooses to get with my dad
Mm,
at 21 years old,
mhm,
and they're 63 now, and they're
mm,
still together.
mm.
And what I've seen them go through, my
Yeah.
dad, obviously, you get your choice to be born black, but his
Mm,
bravery, like, no one will ever knock that man off his podium for me. Like,
mm.
regardless of money or whatever, there'll always be people who out earn him more, have gone on to achieve more. But like,
Yeah,
he's my idol.
yeah.
But my mum's on a parallel podium because she opted in.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is people think it's hunky-dory now. We'll sometimes, oh, having a mixed race kid's cool. They've got curly hair. Sometimes you get a bonus, they'll get green or blue eyes. Like, that's 2025. You know what I mean? I know people have them generally because you fall in love with your partner, but they're the comments that are made now. Like, it's all very positive. Whereas, like, I've seen my mum get spat at, and like, I've had to stick up for my mum when we've gone to football games when my dad was playing, and, oh, look at that N-word lover. Look at them. Oh, who are you there with? Have you got? Like, we've had some horrible stuff, and so when I look at that, and my mum's always taught me, like, anywhere you go, son, hold your head high. You know what I mean? So for me, it's looking at my parents, and I'm saying, well, it's much easier now. Like, it's not easy, but it's easier. And then I go one generation back, and obviously, my mum's mum and dad basically raised me for 11 years, so great people. But just referencing the theme of this conversation, if you go to my dad's side, like, my nan and granddad, like, they come across from St Kitts, a little island that not many people know in the Caribbean, and they had like 4 daughters, two sons, and the bravery that they had to do to come to this country at that time, along with thousands of others in the Windrush generation. I think for them to give me that platform now that I've got to come in normal clothes, me and you have a conversation, they'd have bit your hand off for to have that 50, 60 years ago. So I think it just comes from my family, and I think if we can make it easier for each generation, I just think it's something that I owe them, and I owe Elias and Thea, who are my son and daughter. Like, each generation have built upon something and broken down barriers and shown bravery, and I think I owe it to the people who've done it for me and the people I'm doing it for to carry that on.
My goodness, Joe. You know, I think that saying of we stand on the shoulder of giants, isn't it? Listening to what you've just explained about your grandparents, about what your mum endured and you witnessed, you really are standing on the shoulders of brave giants. So, I mean, my next question was, you almost answered it, but I'm still going to ask it, right? I know you're passionate about holding the ladder out for others. I know you've been back to your old schools to speak,
Yeah.
etc. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, like, and why you want to do that?
Because I think it links back to, I listened to a good podcast by Bugsy Malone and Chris Wilkes, and he talks about functionality in terms of you can seek all the money in the world you want or success, but not everything that glitters is gold. You know what I mean? And not every trophy that you aim to pick up carries the weight that you want it to. Sometimes you pick it up and it's hollow, right? And you're thinking, all this for this. And that can be a promotion. If you relate it to students, it could be the grade that you get. I was always like that. Like, I could get, I don't, they call it ones now or whatever.
The
Could
new
get
structure.
A's, but the 1B that I got, like, you focus on that more than the 9 A's that you got or something like that, pulling figures out. That's not what I achieved. But and then I definitely link it back to where I grew up. So this has always been a challenge, in which why probably I haven't spoke out as much as I wanted to, because I grew up in a place called Langley Green, which is on the cusp of Smethwick. So,
So for those who are not from Birmingham area, can you give me a little bit of joke? How far away is that from Birmingham city centre, for example?
About 4 or 5 miles.
Okay.
It's 4 or 5 miles, but it's not one of the roughest areas. Don't get me wrong. There's rough areas, which is why I've always felt like I've not been given. I know I've been given a very good deck of cards to work with. Not the best. Don't get me wrong. We went through financial troubles, which isn't my platform or right to say, or dive into. But I've still seen that mentality that's followed, which I'd call crabs in a bucket, right? Like, there's always, you grow up thinking, oh, it's you or him across the road. Like, there's not enough space. There's not enough space. You know what I mean? There's not enough money, or there's not enough success to go around. So it's me versus him, me versus her, me versus the whole area, right? And I think growing up, looking back, if I can try and change that perception, and we can try and lift one another, because someone said to me, like, your grass growing doesn't stop others, or someone else's grass is growing doesn't stop your grass growing. You know what I mean? And I think one of my favourite films as well is Coach Carter, and there's this kid in there who's really struggling, and he goes on to say, like, obviously his greatest fear, there's a passage where it's basically inner belief, right? And I think if one person can shine, then they can help illuminate others or believe that they can. It's like a flickering flame, like you can ignite others. And it doesn't need to be that, if he or she gets out, let's call it,
Yeah.
I can't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of that growing up. Like, I'm not going to say I was perfect. Like,
Yeah.
even into my corporate career, I used to grow up, if someone done a deal, let's say like back when I was 2021, people aren't clapping for me, or, I haven't done that deal, like I've lost out, or, he or she's closer to that promotion. You know what I mean? Because that's what you know what I mean? But for me, if we can lift others up and show them that there's other opportunities outside of football or rap or whatever that often you grow up looking at, then that's what I need. That's what I need to do. And if you look at all the great things in the world, often it's through unity, it's through diversification, it's through people who have walked different routes than yourself.
Absolutely.
So if we can bring more to the fore, and if someone has to go through it and trod the untrodden snow, so to speak, and then send the route back, then yeah, that's what
You're
I'll
willing
do.
to do that. You're willing to do that. I think, gosh, Joe, what you're sharing there, the crabs in a bucket, right? It's such a powerful analogy, because you're right. How many people think that we can't all win? And I think you're flipping the script on that and saying, actually, we can all win. I want to share what I know. Like you said, I'm happy to take the path and show you the route there as well. A real kind of call to action I hear there, actually. We can all win. There is space for everyone. There's a real message there as well about sharing what you know. I think I really heard that loud and clear. If I go back to something you were sharing about early in your career, and when you were saying, so like you said, Marcus Francis has been a guest here. I know in the recruitment world, he's called the GOAT, right? Great man, a really great man. But what you said there is actually, although Marcus has a great reputation, really well respected and well known, set up that regional office for that recruitment firm you worked for from scratch, but there was no pipeline. Right? And so that thing about, actually, like you said, you're still one of very few, right, working at a leadership level in a small recruitment or in the recruitment space. What do you think could be done, or what more can we do to turn the dial now so we're seeing more diversity coming through into leadership level?
Across the board, I think no one wants token gestures, right? Like, we're not here to say, and I think that's what can get muddled up. I think sometimes when people from the outside looking in, like people want it given to them, or they need to try and fight, and that's cool. Like everyone accepts that, regardless of the generation you come from, the culture, the socioeconomic background. To get to somewhere, you need to earn it.
Yes.
But I think also there needs to be enough examples out there, and it's tough because unless someone is willing to tread the path that's no one has to get there, then how can anyone look up to it? So it's a bit like chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you dig deeper and actually research, like, there's a lot of industries where there'd be someone who looks like you, or is from where you're from, that has actually achieved it, but it's not maybe spoken of, or there might be one in 1,000.
Yes.
So like it's lost.
Yes.
So for me, I think there needs to be the opportunity first and foremost for people. I think there needs to be conversations had around the support. So when we're hiring people,
Yes.
how are they, like, what's their differences in terms of how can we extract the benefits, and how can we address and identify some of the unique challenges that we got, because sometimes it can kick out in frustration and you just want to feel heard, and that can almost stop you in your career route as well. I think if you was to take the England football team, for example, 40, 50 years ago, like what would that have looked like? I'm not saying one version's better than the other, but the current one, especially me, grow up, you think, one way to get out is football. The England football team now is probably 50, 60% black heritage as well. It doesn't mean that the football team's any less English, you know what I mean? But for looking up, if you were to ask a lot of black males or black heritage kids, they say, I want to be a footballer. because they see it visually as something that they can achieve.
Yes.
So it needs to be about representation, and I think something needs to be reverse engineered. Like, you can go all the way to academia and say, like, these are the career routes that can be achieved. These are the people that have achieved it. But until we get there, and they're the way the world's changing, because pre-COVID, I think people saw careers. I think people saw long tenure at one company. I think there's a lot more startups. There's a lot more individuality. There's a lot more fluidity within business as well. So it might not just be with leadership positions. So it's a bit nuanced to measure. But I think actually speaking about it, showing real lived examples, and then showing journeys rather than just 1 month a year or 1 week.
Yes.
If institutions from schools, colleges, universities, workplaces can do that, then I think you'll be on the right track. But you have to see it to believe it.
Yes. 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 And I think in what you're sharing there with us, I think you've just spoken about the how. You've given a script there. Actually, this is the how. And here's examples of actually when there is representation and there's depth of representation, that it can change the narrative or the belief process, right? For young people coming through behind us. So if I said to you, final bit of advice, if there was some key advice that you'd want to, if you were talking to our younger listeners, right? Who, and, about thinking about their careers, just thinking about some of what you just said, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them? It's a big question.
Big question, long list, to be fair. So it's always going to have aspects of individuality. So if I speak to someone in particular, like, obviously progress and try and understand where they're from, but in general, I think obviously it goes without saying, obviously the self-belief. You have to believe in yourselves, and you have to learn to live with failure. Like, I've failed more than a lot of people, and it's just the ability to get back on the horse. And sometimes you'll find yourself in what I call a storm, right? I love a metaphor. So you'll find yourself in a storm, and you'll feel like this is just the worst thing in the world. Like, I want the storm to end. I just want it to pass. But within that storm, you can be, as cheesy as it sounds, like, reborn. And I think if you look at a lot of people's stories, mine, yours, you can go to superheroes, princesses, regardless of what your preference is. There's always a plot twist. There's always a sad point. There's always something that creates that main character arc for when they actually do achieve what they need to do, and you get to the end of the movie, that everyone's happy, and they wouldn't have achieved the end result without that horrible middle. And I think obviously you've just got to get to the point where in life you're writing a book, and you're not always going to have like chapters that are filled with joy. You're going to have chapters that challenge you. You're going to have characters that you don't go through every chapter with. There's going to be characters that you leave in the back of the book because they're not good for you, or you were no good for them, or it was just mutually beneficial for X amount of time, and then you naturally grew apart. That's life. But I think everyone has got to accept differences. Everyone's got to accept that there's going to be points of failure within whatever career they seek, and there's always going to be differences. So personally, for me, I've always felt that I've had too much of a good deck of cards where I might not be relatable. So I'll speak to my cousin who's a deputy head in a PRU, and some of the kids' journeys that he talked to me there, or some of the things that they go through, I'm like, am I supposed to go into a PRU and try and act like I resonate with their stories or understand their pain? You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm not middle class or upper class, so to speak, in a class system. So I'm like, no, everyone has points of pain. Like I said, that person who we deem as having everything, like with the mansions and the cars, they could be under extreme financial burden. You know what I mean? And they could want someone to talk to. But just because you're not from the baddest environment, or you're not from the environment where it's got the highest levels of crime, or it might be that you might be from a different background, doesn't mean that no one's got pain, right? So I think if you can accept that, learn to bring others within your journey, learn to feel that, you know what, you will come up against microaggressions, and it will be over, it will be covert, but there's a lot of good people out there. Like I said, if linking into advice, another piece would be, grab onto those people that lift you up.
Yes.
And I think in my workspace, I'll often walk into rooms still to this day and no one in there looks like me. I can do that in my own company. Like I walk in, only black male, annotated, run SME, but I can do that in a corporate boardroom. I can
Yes.
walk into a lot of institutions and a lot of people don't look like me. However,
Yes.
they're giving me the opportunity. They treat me for me. There's nothing in there. They'll treat me the same as they treat anyone. So I don't go around waving a wand or waving my hand saying it's unfair, like everyone's nasty, everyone's gonna have bias.
It's not true.
It's not true. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for the sympathy card. There's a lot of good people out there. So my advice would be find those good people, grab onto them with two hands.
Yeah.
If people are good to you, be good to them.
Yeah.
And then accept that failure is part of the journey. When you're writing your book, you're gonna have good chapters, you're gonna have bad chapters.
Yeah.
But if by the end of the book that you achieve what you set out to in chapter 1, then it doesn't really matter how you get there. That would be.
Because what you're sharing here for our younger audience, and I think what you've just shared here applies to everybody, right? But particularly we're talking about people who may be earlier on in their journey or thinking about where to start or, kind of I'm in my first role. But what you've just shared there about accept that there may be failures is so powerful because in this world of social media, there is a real perception that everything's perfect. And I speak to so many people in graduate role, just, early entry into work, just left uni, and the fear of getting something wrong is so high, that for some people it's stifling them, like it's stopping them from trying something new. So I think what you just explained there from your position of experience, right? Really, really useful advice for people, So thank you for unpacking that. Now, you mentioned Elias and Thea in there, so at the time of recording this, you have a very small new family member and baby.
Yeah.
But I always ask my guests, and I know you're a busy man, what do you do to balance your health and well-being?
Wish I could tell you sleep. So yeah, at time of recording, I've got a 2-year-old son, Elias. He's 3 in March, and then I got a new baby girl called Thea, who is currently 9 weeks old, and obviously my partner Ellie. Been together for about 12, 13 years, but I'd love to say, like, again, relating it to your point of social media, you'll see David Goggins who will do like a lot of his ethos, or you'll see a lot of fitness instructors who say the only way to be a millionaire is to wake up at 6 a.m. and to do that 365 days a year. I struggled with that myself. I was looking at thinking, I'm not doing what looks like good on the tin. But then I can't remember his name, but I'd have to send it you. But then I listened to one other podcast, and balance is such a nuanced word in terms of how can we ever really achieve full balance. And I think especially for me, working in an SME, it's very nuanced. I do have a lot of pressure on me to be a role model within the company and outside. So what I do is sprints. So I know what makes me have a good, healthy mindset, which is some sort of physical activity, some sort of outdoors. Like everyone winds me up, like if you know me, I'm always out with my dog or whatever. Like that to me, I have certain non-negotiables. So some sort of physical activity per week, get outdoors. In terms of what that structure looks like, though, it could be anything. If Thea wakes up at 6 a.m. and I can't go to the gym, that's fine. If Ellie's had a tough day at home and I have to get back and I can't stay into the office till like 6 or 7 like I used to, that's fine as well. But it's sprints, and you can sprint family time. You can sprint with what I call focus, which is work. You can have like a bit of a leisure, let's call it a sprint as well, where that's something that you focus on as well. So yeah, I play it by ear, but usually some sort of physical activity, getting outdoors, and then obviously prioritizing the family, but allowing myself flexibility and allowing myself to say, you know what, you're not perfect. Like you can't go gym 5-6 days a week. You can't get up at 6 a.m. at the crack of dawn and every time. You can't maybe play football 3 times a week, which is obviously a real good bit of enjoyment for myself, but sometimes you have to back burden. So yeah, physical activity, being outdoors, getting like a bit of a stress relief as well, and just doing it when I can, and accepting that at some point kids will be in school, I'll be able to get a little bit more structure,
Yes.
and then obviously I can go back to it. But that's what works for me.
Okay. Okay. So the reality, right? The reality of
Reality.
the time available. So you mentioned LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Is that the best way for listeners to connect with you and kind of hear more from Joe?
Yeah, so I'd say definitely from a commercial point of view,
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I'm on there, Joe Burroughs, so should be LinkedIn.
I will link
It
it in
should
the
be
show
linked when
notes.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we post it. But yeah, and then yeah, I am trying to toy with the idea. Who knows? Maybe when this podcast is out,
Yeah.
that trying to give back, because that is
Mm.
something I'm not sure what that looks like at the minute.
Yes.
It looks like schoolwork. So I was an alumni for my old school,
Yeah.
where I'd done like 2 years of high school after my previous school, and then 2 years of sixth form. And I went back as a guest of honor, which was
Yes.
an honor for myself.
Yeah.
And then in December, I'm going back to help some of their sixth formers do like mock interviews as well.
Fantastic.
So
Yes. Yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah.
who knows, that'll be something that I'm working on. And if I do get a separate contact details into that
Yes.
by the time of release, and I'll send it to you.
Please do. And I think, Joe, it's easy to say it, but genuinely, thank you. So I think a thank you for coming on today, because actually, when you talk about giving back, what you've taken time out of your busy day, really busy day, to come and spend time with us today. And I know what you've shared. The reason why I've been chasing you, I feel like, to get you on, is because I know what you share is giving back. And actually, the opportunity that we can offer here is to share this episode far and wide, with young people, with colleagues who are underrepresented. There's so much in what you shared here that really is about how to lead authentically and be proud of who you are. Right. That's what I really took from here. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, it's been a pleasure as well, man. Thanks for having me, because I know to start with, I wasn't sure because, like I said, I'm only 29. Like some of the guests that you've had on are giants in your own career yourself as well. But like I said, if it can help just one person, then keep it short, sharp, and sweet. Then yeah, hopefully we can do just that.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.